everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Senior Style Guide Real Talk podcast. I'm your host, Sean Brown, and today we have the incredible, amazing Holli True on. I always intro this with kind of where she's from, and we were joking around before that she's from the town in Oregon that shall not be named. I'm a Washington Husky fan. She is an Oregon Ducks fan. She is from we always go back and forth about our Pac-12 football that I know the rest of the country doesn't care about, but
we're diehard.
We met. You know what?
I said we're diehard. We care.
We're diehard, and I think we met a couple. We've known each other through social media for a couple of years now, and really just met. Was it last year? 2 years ago?
Yeah, we met like last year, but it seemed really weird that it was like the first time we were actually meeting, especially when we live in the same corner like of the U.S. It seems like we should have met like years ago, but yeah, we really only just met like last year in real life.
Yeah, so we finally met, and as we were kind of scheduling our 2020 guests out, we were like, we have to have Holli on. So I'm so glad you're here, and thank you so much for being on the podcast today.
Thank you. I'm super excited. It's so much fun. So thank you for having me on today.
Of course. For those listening who are like, who's Holli True? Or for people who can't get enough of you, tell us a little bit more about your story and who you are.
Well, so my name is Holli True. I'm an Oregon-based photographer. I've been in business for a lot of years, a long time. It kind of feels like forever. I don't remember life before photography, which is kind of funny. But I don't know. I feel so like I could say like a million things. I specialize in high school senior portraits. However, this year I'm kind of changing that up. I'm kind of going on a photography sabbatical, which is the scariest, most exciting thing I've ever done in my business. Which I know we're going to kind of talk about that more in a minute. But I've specialized my business. I kind of specialized right out of the gates when most people weren't. And so that was, I think, honestly, kind of how I propelled my business years ago, because everybody here was a generalist who photographed everything. And I kind of said, no, I'm going to go against the grain. But that's kind of my way anyway. I just kind of do what I want. And yeah, so it's been a really fun, crazy couple of years. And business has always been really good, and I've been super fortunate to be able to do this full time for so long, which is kind of what makes me feel kind of selfish and scared at the same time to make a change. But I feel like when it's time, and I think that right now is kind of my time to make a change. So
totally,
yeah.
How did you get into photography, seniors? Kind of what's your origin story?
Yeah, so I started out actually years ago. I worked at a portrait studio called Picture People. We wore like the twirly hats and the fisherman vests and had to say like witty ditties when we'd answer the phone, which was hilarious. Still remember like 20 of them that are just, they're like ingrained, like they're ingrained, like they'll never go away. But yeah, so I started out like in portrait photography, film, but we didn't actually have to know our cameras like at all. Like we just kind of had to go in and take pictures. Anyway, so fast forward, I had both of my kids while I was working there. I worked there for 5 years. And then I decided I needed to get like a big girl job and go like do something that wasn't like retail photography, and got a job at a corporate office at a credit union, and wanted to kill myself after like 5 minutes of working there, because I was like, this is going to suck the life out of me. I can't do this. But I did. I had to do it for 3 years. Had to like submit to a life of khakis and sweater sets, and not me at all. But I did it. I did it for 3 years. But within like the first week of doing it, I just, I went home and I told my husband, I'm like, I hate it. Like, I hate this job. I don't want to do it. The people were great. The job itself was terrible. And he, my husband, we've been together now 21 years, but at the time it hadn't been 21 years. Married. Sorry. We've been together 24 years. Married for 21 years.
That's awesome.
And thank you. Thank you. But at the time, I mean, we were, this was a long time ago. But he's very patient with me and very understanding. And so he said, he's like, if you don't want to do this, what do you want to do? And I was like, well, I kind of think I want to try doing photography on my own terms. So the man went and bought me a camera and was like, let's build a business then. And so I came from film, but he bought me a digital camera. So I had to teach myself digital, which was horrifyingly scary, but I did it because I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I didn't know anything about an f-stop. I didn't know about ISO because I didn't have to do any of that when I worked at the studio. But I had to teach myself all of that. And so because I had a toddler and a baby, it's like I had two very willing, people, subjects that I could photograph. And so I just kind of learned my way with my camera by chasing them and taking pictures of them every single day, or taking pictures of the food we were eating or whatever. I taught myself what f-stops were and what depth of field was, literally by photographing a pepperoni pizza in my kitchen. And I know it sounds so corny.
That's possibly like the best story of like how someone learned photography is pepperoni pizza photography.
It literally is. But I didn't understand it. I was just like, I can't comprehend. Like, if I'm changing this number, what does it actually do? And so my kids were by then, a little bit bigger and running around. And I was like, they're not staying still long enough for me to like figure this out. I was like, my pizza isn't going anywhere. So
yeah, until it gets in your belly when you're hungry and yeah.
Right. No. So yeah. So I sat in my kitchen and just like changed the numbers, and I was like, I get it. Like I understand what's happening now. And so, yeah, so I worked at the credit union for 3 years while I was building my business. And lo and behold, at the time I wasn't specialized quite yet. I was kind of, I thought I was going to be a children's photographer because that's what I had come from. But I quickly learned, like, without a studio space and living in Oregon where it does rain a lot, like, it really wasn't a very good business model. So I decided to get into try my hand in different things. And I got into photographing a couple of seniors because my cousin at the time happened to be a senior in high school. And so he had some friends. And so I photographed some seniors. But I also, because I worked at the credit union at the corporate office where there were tons of people, there were a lot of people getting married. So I had a lot of brides who were my friends who were like, hey, like, could we just hire you? So I specialized, and I'm using air quotes, because I, at the time, specialized in senior portraits and then weddings. And so I kind of encompassed both of them together, but I didn't really do other avenues of photography.
Totally.
So when I went full-time in 2010, I was a wedding and senior portrait photographer. But within about 2 years of launching my business full-time and leaving the credit union behind me, I dropped weddings. And so for the past 8 years, it's been strictly seniors since then.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I know kind of one of the reasons that we got along so well is that I think we're both very business-minded people in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I agree.
And even when you're starting out, you're always I don't think that you initially think that you need to necessarily like have important things like a brand, and you're just like, oh, if I shoot pretty photos, then people will book me. Talk a little bit about the importance of brand and kind of building your brand. I know when we were talking pre-show, you were kind of like, there's really just the Holli True umbrella, which I think speaks to having a strong brand versus just, being known as like the photographer. So talk a little bit about branding, the importance of branding, how you got started with that.
Okay. Well, thank you. I think I agree with you. I'm kind of a business-minded person, which is kind of funny because I don't come from a long line of people who've started businesses. I think I'm the only person in my family who's ever actually started their own business. So I don't know where it comes from. Not really sure. What I do know is that I'm a very passionate person, and I'm also a go-getter. Like, I'm not somebody who wants to sit and wait for somebody else to figure something out for me. Like, I just want to get in there and get it done. With business, I'm not going to lie. Like, I was a hot mess when I started. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, and I'm not a numbers person. So you can imagine being a business owner and being terrible at numbers. It's been a struggle sometimes. But I do understand creative. I do understand marketing. I understand branding. And I don't know that without this business, I would ever have known that it would be a strong suit for me. I really don't. I have always looked at businesses and have kind of always tried to dissect them to figure out how they do what they do. Where I'm from, we founded one of the biggest companies ever on the planet, which is Nike. And I've always looked at Nike and I've looked at Phil Knight as like somebody who gets it. And every time I've ever taught photographers in branding or anything, the way that I've always kind of explained it to them is like, you think about a company like Nike and you know exactly what they do. They work in athletics. They do apparel for athletics. They're not offering prom dresses. They're not offering denim. They're not extending themselves outside of athletic apparel. If you see a swoosh, you know that it's Nike. If you hear just do it, you know that it's Nike. If you see Nike, you know what it represents. And so to me in business, That is what a business needs. You need to have an icon that represents you. You need to have a slogan that represents you. And you need to have a logo that will encompass exactly what you do and who you serve. Your brand has to be able to speak for you when you're not there to say anything at all. What is it saying about you? And is it saying the right thing? So for me, when I was looking at my business as photography and everything else, I didn't want to be known as like the mom and pop photographer. I didn't want to be known as a studio photographer. I didn't want to be known as somebody who does a lot of Photoshop. Like I had to kind of think about like, if I'm going to be putting this product out there, what am I trying to convey? What do I want people to think about? What do I want them to feel? I want them to fall in love with where I live. So where I live has been a huge part of my branding. Natural. That's like one of my words for sure. I'm all about nature. I'm all about natural light. I'm all about natural beauty. Like all of those things really encompass what I do. I'm fortunate that my last name is True. It's like really my last name. I married Jeff True, but True has kind of also like authentic, true, those words. Those have been words that I've also encompassed into my branding. Young and free was the slogan that I carried in my business for a really, really long time. And it's just kind of, I feel like a mood and a feeling and a way of life. And it's just kind of like a way of being. And so for me, what I wanted when people would look at my photography is to get that feeling of authenticity, nature, young, free. And so what I had to deliver then is something that fit within that, which I didn't ever feel pigeonholed or trapped into that, because that's just naturally like how I see things and how I want to create them. In high school, I was a big time art student, and I worked with pastels and charcoals because you could blend your colors or your black and whites. And shadow and light was such a huge part of how I would see my subject. That's everything in photography, but it's also everything in art. Mm-hmm. And so for me, when we would do life study and we'd have to like draw the person who was, sitting at the front of the classroom, like we would have to kind of see like how the light was hitting their body and how we were going to make those lights how to make the color, can't even speak, how to make everything float together in a way where it looked like it was three-dimensional. And in photography, it's been the same thing for me. Like I learned how to manipulate light in art. So I manipulate light. Oh my God. I manipulate light in photography too. So for me, I'm still sticking with that natural light aspect, but I never turn my back on my light source. Like I know where it is, and I'm using that to my ability in my photography, which again has become part of my branding. So I hope that answers that question.
Yes. Importance of brand and all that stuff. I think you covered it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The one thing real quick, the umbrella, what I said to Sean off air, like I've always treated my name as the brand. And I think that anybody who's in business right now, this is kind of an important thing. A lot of photographers specifically are always trying to tie what they do with who they are. And I think that that's kind of a misstep. I think it's important, yes, that people know what you offer. Absolutely. But when you think about like your logo and things like that, like I would really encourage everybody out there to really rethink that and create a brand that stands on its own, because right now you might think that you're going to be a photographer for the rest of your life. 10 years down the road, you don't know. And it's so hard when you tie photography or photographer or any title to your brand. Create a brand that stands on its own, that is your name, whether it be a business name, whether it be your personal name, it really doesn't matter. But I almost would encourage you to keep it a little bit nondescript, because then you can have avenues underneath that, or like I always call it the umbrella, so that everything can fall underneath it. Mm-hmm. I've written books. So I'm Holly True author. I do design. So I'm Holly True design. I do photography. So I'm Holly True photography. But all of it falls underneath Holly True. And so I just think it's really important that people think about that, because you just don't know where your life is going to take you or where your business is going to lead you down the road.
And let's talk a little bit more about that. You don't know where life's going to lead you. So not only have you gone from a corporate credit union job, now kind of moving into the design stuff, you've had a couple different changes. So let's talk about going in a different direction, taking that leap. Just what goes through your head? What made you feel like you wanted to do it?
It's scary. Like it's scary as hell, to be completely honest with you. I'm a dreamer, and I think I think a lot of photographers are. I think that I've always just felt like I'm going to live one life and I'm going to live it to the fullest, and I'm going to do all the things I want to do. Like I want to check all the boxes. And I'm not like an adventure seeker. That's not my excitement. That doesn't really get my like engine revving or anything like that. Like I like to just get creative. And so I've written a novel. I'm writing another novel because I'm like, why not? Like, why can't I? I did my photography business and I was able to build it from nothing and into something that has carried me for a lot of years. And design has been something that's kind of always been there, just simply because, you know, when I started, I had no money, so I couldn't hire anybody to build anything for me. I had the amazing opportunity to meet David J. a lot of years ago when Show It was brand new. And meeting him actually, I truly believe, transformed my entire business and changed like the trajectory of where it was going. And it's been pretty incredible, you know, having that story be kind of my journey, is all these people who've helped navigate me to where I am. And I will never forget them, and I will never be able to thank them enough for what they've been willing to do. My husband, David J., you know, all the people, my family. But it's staying true, I feel like, to who I am and what I am all about. And I will never turn my back on that. So I will never limit myself in business. And when opportunities keep kind of dropping in your lap, I feel like you have to pay attention, because I feel like it's almost like the universe trying to tell you something.
Yeah.
And design kind of is what that is. Like, it's been a lot of years of me mentoring photographers, helping them understand their design process and helping them understand their branding and helping them learn how to market their business and consistency with their deliverables and everything else, that it kind of just naturally progressed, that all of a sudden photographers were coming to me saying, like, can I just hire you to just do the whole thing? Like, I don't want to think about what the logo needs to be. I don't want to think about how the website needs to go together. I don't care about SEO. I just want you to do it for me. And it's kind of nuts, because I opened up my calendar 2 years ago to just take a couple of people. And last year I actually did a lot more design than photography. And I had to maintain the photography business because I had already basically set that in motion a year before. Mm-hmm. So last year, when I was forecasting for 2020, I decided not to open my calendar for photography. And it's been scary and horrific and awful to have to turn people away. But it's where I am. It's where I'm at right now. And it's where I feel like I need to be. And so I'm okay with it. And I've accepted it and I'm loving it, but it's still hard because I do love photography, but I also know that photography is not going away. I'm not selling my camera equipment. If I want to go do a photo shoot, like, I can get a girl, I can go shoot. I have 2 kids who are teenagers, like, I can go photograph them. But it's just, it's where my calling is right now. And it's, you know, there's a lot of factors that go into that. It's, you know, the fact that I do have 2 teenagers who are close to being out of my house, and design is giving me a little bit of control in a schedule that I haven't had in a really long time. Sure. You know, and so I'm grateful for it. And it's almost, I think I was telling you this off air a couple weeks ago, when my son went through 8th grade graduation, like, it was the hardest thing for me. And my husband just kept looking at me like, you're crazy. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, why do you keep crying? But it was like this reality that it's like, you know, we're 8 years into school years with him. You only get 12 school years with your kids. And we're in the 8th one with him, which means we're 2/3 done. Like, how did that happen so fast? And now, like, the thing that's terrifying about that, he's a freaking sophomore in high school. So now I'm 2 more years out. So yep. It's like flying by, and you can't even keep up with it, and you can't stop it. Like, time is like that terrible constant. So I honestly, at that time, that summer, that 8th grade, right before my son went into 9th grade, was one of my busiest summers I've ever had in my business. And I kind of started to resent it a little bit, how much I was gone and how much it was almost robbing me of time with my kids because they were off school. And I'm just like, no, like, I've worked for this. I've worked so hard for this. And how can I possibly be angry that everything I've put in motion, I now resent? Like, that's crazy. So I realized I needed to reevaluate and adjust. And so the next summer, I took half the number of sessions I did the year before. And now this summer I have 0 booked. So we'll see what happens.
So you talked a little bit about when life places things in your lap, you have to pay attention to it. How do you know when it's time to take that leap?
I think, okay, I can't say that I wouldn't know how to tell anybody else to know when it's time. I would hate to tell somebody when this happens, you should do I think you have to really listen to where your heart is telling you to go. And for me, even though I love photography and I will always love photography, it's not what is fueling me right now. It's just not. And sometimes I think taking a break is the best thing you can do for your business. I needed a little bit of a timeout with photography, I think. And I needed to kind of reevaluate. And even somebody like, I know I teach a lot on branding and I teach a lot about, all of these things, but that doesn't mean that sometimes I don't get lost. Like I do myself get lost. I think everybody in business kind of does. And you fall victim to trend. You fall victim to, your clients telling you what you need to do. And sometimes you just kind of in that shuffle get lost in where you are and where you're standing in it. And photography, that's kind of where I was at, as I was kind of feeling lost. And I had actually had a lot of conversations with my friends, photographer friends, because my friends outside of photography don't get it, but my photographer friends understand. And so we had a lot of conversations about it. And it started out as me feeling lost with my style and knowing that there was something more that I wanted and more that I wanted to create, but I just couldn't get there because I was kind of feeling trapped with what my clientele, who they were and what they were expecting from me, and them wanting me to go photograph them where their friends had been photographed. Mm-hmm. And so all of a sudden I'm feeling like this trapped circumference of I can go here, 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 but I can't go over there. And it was really suffocating. And so everybody kept telling me, you need to go start shooting for yourself. You need to go start shooting for yourself. But what didn't work for me with that was that even when I was going out and shooting for myself, I was still trapping myself with boundaries that I didn't even realize I was putting on myself.
Interesting.
It's so weird because you would think it would just be I can go create whatever I want to, but I wasn't, even when I could. I still was going to what was familiar. I still was going to what was safe. I just wasn't pushing myself. And I realized it's not that I'm feeling underwhelmed with photography. It's that I'm just tired of photography for a minute. It's all I've been doing and it's all I've been. And it's everything that it might have been my free time. It's been my work life. It's been everything. And it was no, I need to just kind of put the camera down for a minute and just be Holly for a minute, minus the camera and minus the business, and just be. And so that was really good for me to just do that. But I'm not somebody who can't work either. I'm a workaholic. So I had to kind of find a way to funnel that energy and that business into something. And so for me, it became design because it's creative and it's still in the industry that I love and that I've been submerged in for so long. So that's for me, it was listening to what I was going through and not allowing myself to get lost in something that can be a really detrimental place to be in business. So
yeah. And what role do you feel like your brand played in you being able to make that transition?
What's interesting, my brand, I feel like was pivotal because people could see that I had a brand. So then when I'm saying hey, let me brand you, let me help you, they were oh yeah, I like
you actually brand. Know what you're doing and you're not just blowing smoke. Yeah.
And I didn't buy my brand from somebody. Nobody designed my brand for me because again, I was broke. I didn't have anybody to do any of that stuff for me in the beginning. I had to figure it out. And so being completely self-made, it has helped me help other people do it. Not that I'm saying that having somebody do your brand for you is bad. That's not at all what I'm saying.
I think it's playing to your strengths too. If you know that you're able to do it, do it. But if you're can't, 100%. Yeah, then by all means, go hire somebody. Yeah.
100%. But if you are somebody who doesn't understand it or speak that language, I don't know that you would be the right person to then educate on it, is what I am saying.
Totally.
So yeah. So I think that I think that I am not fantastic at numbers. I'm not fantastic at building collections and everything else. You probably don't want to hire me for in-person sales. You don't want to I'd learn from me on that. those are not my strengths. Like I'm staying away from those things. But if you want to learn about marketing, branding, you know, if you want to understand like cohesion, if you want to learn how to write a better about me section, like I'm your girl. Like those are the things that I'm really good at. And so those are the things that I educate on.
Totally. What keeps you motivated in life?
What keeps me motivated in life? I think just creating. Like I just love to create. I love to write because I love to create stories. I love to tell stories. I'm like, yeah, I just think creation, like it's just, if it's a picture, if it's art, if it's writing, if it's a website, like I love all of it. I love taking nothing and turning it into something. Like a blank page for me is the most exciting thing in the world. And I think a lot of people would just be like, ugh, I don't know what to say. And for me, I'm just like, I could fill this page in 5 minutes with a million things. Like, I love it. I really love it. And it's the same with design. Like I love how people don't see their work the way that it needs to be seen. And it's so interesting to me. I cannot tell you how many photographers have apologized to me for their work. I'm so sorry that you have to work with my stuff now. I saw the website that you did for so-and-so, and now you have to do design for me. Like, I'm really sorry. Why are you sorry? Why are you sorry? Why are you apologizing to me? Like, this is your work. Like, you should just be like, lucky girl, you get to design for me, you know? Like, I wish people could own their craft more. And I wish that people felt better about what they're doing. Like, it's crazy to me how negative everyone is on themselves, you know? Like, I feel like, I don't know, it's just crazy to me. So I don't know, motivating me, like I'm motivated in a million ways, I guess. It just kind of depends on what avenue, but in design, I'm motivated to help people see their work the way that it needs to be seen, honestly. Yeah. And it's the same with seniors. I'm motivated to get them to see themselves the way that I see them. You know, it's kind of the same thing. It's just one's photographers and one's seniors, you know?
Well, and okay, let's unpack that a little bit then. Kind of how do you get over, it boils down to, I think, self-doubt in a lot of ways. So
Absolutely.
How do you work to overcome that? What do you need to do to see yourself as other people see you? Whether that be your photography or self-worth or whatever.
I've always been a show, not tell. That's always just been my way. And so I don't sit there and like, let me give you a therapy session, 18-year-old, about why you need to feel better about yourself. Like they don't want to be counseled.
Yeah, they don't want to be lectured. And
no, absolutely not. And so for me, it has always been like, you're going to go with me. You're going to feel amazing. You're going to look amazing. You're going to love the experience, and I'm going to take care of you. Like, that's bottom line. Like, you're not going to think about anything other than how great you feel and how beautiful you are. Like, that's all. I'm just going to shower you in compliments, and you're going to feel it. I'm not just going to make you look pretty. You're going to feel pretty. And I think with photographers, it's kind of the same thing. Like, I'm like, I don't know. It's interesting because I've never had to actually dissect that, but I think that is kind of it though. Like, photographers have kind of subjected themselves to template-based websites where it's like, you are just limited.
Let's not even just say template-based websites. Let's just say template-based work. And what I mean by that is having to feel like they have to look a certain way, whether that be somebody they admire or something that, you know, they know sells in terms of aesthetic.
Yes.
So let's just say all of that, because I think that's almost the same.
Which I think does kind of go back to what I was saying before too, though. Like, I felt trapped because I had trapped myself into this like way of being and way of like society telling me your business needs to be run like this. This is how senior photographers work. Yep. And for a long time that worked for me fine. But when I've outgrown the mold, like, then what? Then I'm just feeling like I need to push out the walls or I'm going to go crazy, which is kind of exactly where I was at. And I think that what you're saying is absolutely correct. I think people look to others to say, this is how I need to do it. And at some point you have to stop looking at other people and just say, like, if it is not making you happy, then what purpose does it serve in your life? There's nothing worse than doing something in life that you don't want to do.
Yeah.
There's nothing worse. And I don't know about you, but I don't know how many days I have left on this earth. Like, I don't want to live them unhappy. I want to be happy. And I also want to do something that fulfills me. And so for so long, that was photography. And now I feel like almost photography's kind of served its purpose in me to lead me where I am now, and that's where I'm able to help other people create this fulfilled sense of being in their business and help them get their business where it needs to go next. But I hate nothing more than when people limit themselves because of circumstance or because of society, or because it's like, well, this is where I live and this is what I can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Like, we all live somewhere, there's always somewhere better. The grass is always greener. Like, things are always more fortunate for other people. But come on, like, you can really ultimately create whatever you want in life. You can be whoever you want to be. You can build whatever business you want to do. You can photograph whoever you want to photograph. It doesn't matter. But when you start limiting yourself, that's really your own fault, because you're not thinking big enough and you're not thinking outside the box and you're not pushing yourself to do more than what other people are telling you can do. So I don't know. I just think it's hard. It's hard, especially when you're first starting out. I think that those are the years where you are kind of limited. You just are. You're limited because of the tools you have, the resources you have, the clients that you have, those things. But the minute you start getting those things together, really start to push yourself harder, because it's only going to make you better and bigger and more, I don't know, more secure with who you are. So, yeah.
I agree. As we kind of wrap up, what is one thing that you want people to take away from this episode? Kind of that one nugget that if they remember one thing about this episode, it's what you're about to say.
Oh my gosh, that's heavy. Okay, so I would say, okay, you're gonna have to probably edit this. Give me like 2 seconds. I'd probably say like what led me to here is just listen to what your heart is telling you, and what's right for you doesn't necessarily have to be right for everybody else. It has to be right for you because it's your life and you're the one living it. And, for me, it was time. I could feel time slipping through my fingers. Like, I would tell my husband, it's like, I feel like I'm grasping at sand. And even though I'm grabbing handfuls of it, like, my hands are empty within seconds. And it's terrifying. It's so scary. But time's going to pass no matter what. Like, it's going to pass whether or not you got your stuff together and you're just rocking it in business, or if you're stuck at a standstill and you're afraid to make one step. Like, time is still going to go. It doesn't matter. And I think a lot of people are afraid to make wrong steps and to do things wrong. And I would encourage you to make as many wrong steps as you possibly can, because you're going to learn more about yourself and you're going to find your way even faster. And I don't know, like, I just feel like don't be afraid to make mistakes and just listen to your heart. Yeah.
100%. Perfect. I'll give you a second to think about this. I always like to have our guests ask a question to our listeners. So whether you're listening on YouTube, you can drop it in the comments section. If you're listening on podcast, to screenshot the episode. And then all you have to do is tag at Senior Style Guide, at Sean Brown Productions, and it's just Holli True, at Holli True, right?
Yeah, I'm at Holli True for everything.
At Holli True, and give us like your favorite thing about the episode today. So when you answer that question, or you can answer the question in that screenshot Instagram story as well. But where can people find you aside from Instagram?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I use Twitter still, but it's usually where I rant about sports or entertainment.
Surprised I haven't been blocked from Holli's Twitter yet.
You've not been blocked. Hey, I have nothing against a little banter. It's good. Yeah, no, and then also Pinterest. I love Pinterest. I love Pinterest, but everything for me is just Holli True, like everything. So cool. It's all about the branding.
It is.
Yeah.
All right.
So what's my
the question that you want to ask our amazing listeners and audience?
That is so hard, Sean. Dude, hang on. Okay. So the question that I would want to ask you guys is, if you could change one thing about your business right now, what would it be? Or
Perfect.
Should I change it?
I like that question, but we can add 2 questions to give them a little
2 questions.
Double homework.
Questions. Yes, double homework, guys, because I'm mean. Another question I would say is if what is one element to your brand that you feel like you're missing?
I like that too.
Thank you. I like that too. I think branding is important.
I agree. Awesome. Perfect. Well, any closing remarks, snide comments, anything like that?
I mean, other than go Ducks, I don't know.
Wrong one. We're going to have to edit that out. So awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on the podcast. I know that there are tons of people listening who are like, yes, Holli is speaking straight to me right now. I'm in a stage of life where I need to get my stuff together. I need to move in a different direction. I know that my heart is telling me it's just time to take that leap. And, I know that you said that there were times where it's super scary, like not taking on any photography clients. And, the first time in 15 years or however long you said it has been.
Terrifying.
And
about 15. Yeah.
And now moving in a completely different direction. So I applaud you for taking that leap. And I hope that helps inspire some of our listeners who might be on the fence.
Well, thank you so much. It's been so fun to hang out with you guys. And if you guys have questions about anything, branding, design, whatever, like definitely hit me up, let me know. But also, just utilize, you're sitting on a wealth of knowledge already. You've got all these podcast episodes, with Sean and Real Talk, and you've got Senior Style Guide. Like there's so many avenues of education out there. And I think that the more that you can educate yourself and push yourself to be a better photographer, be a better person, be a better business owner, like do it. And don't limit yourself to just one opinion or one avenue. Like go down every single avenue, like be hungry to learn and be hungry to grow. I think that it's just really important in life and in business. So
100%. Awesome. Holli, thank you so much. And for all you guys still listening, we'll see you guys next time on the next episode of Real Talk. See you guys later.
Bye, guys.